Never did I imagine I would find myself ensnared in the unfathomable. An unexpected bond formed between two people navigating unfamiliar emotions. Elias, my husband's closest confidant. A familiar face, shrouded in shadows of the past. He arrived frequently, his presence filling the air with tension as he and my husband shared hushed conversations, their laughter ringing ominously in the living room. My heart raced as the truth shattered my perception of him. In an instant, everything shattered. He was gone, leaving an unsettling silence in his absence. Suddenly, a knock shattered the silence. I never anticipated a visitor. Yet, Elias arrived, clutching the long-lost documents, a storm brewing in his heart. The rain fell, heavy and relentless. The house hung in an eerie silence, a tension thick in the air. We sat together, words spilling between us like secrets in the dark. He leaned in, his eyes searching mine. "Are you happy?" he whispered, the weight of the question hanging in the air. A question so simple, yet it stole my breath away. Words escaped me, yet in his gaze, a silent understanding flickered. I draped the blanket over him, my heart racing as he slipped into a deep slumber on the couch. A fleeting touch, a moment of hesitation that lingered in the air. A jolt of fear gripped me. Emotions surged, uninvited and overwhelming. Yet I did. In the days that followed, my focus sharpened on Elias, each moment heavy with unspoken tension. With each visit, a palpable tension filled the air, shifting the very essence of the home. He lingered, his gaze piercing through the silence, stretching the moment into something heavy and unspoken. "Are you truly happy?" he asked the haunting question once more. My heart screamed yes, but my lips betrayed me. This time, when his hand reached for mine, I held my breath and stayed still. Silence hung heavy between us, yet we felt it. The boundary had vanished, leaving only the weight of unspoken truths. When did his eyes change? The question haunts me, a shadow lurking in the corners of my mind. Perhaps it was my growing awareness, or perhaps it had lurked in the shadows all along, biding its time for me to see it. That night, Elias arrived later than ever before. He was gone, and the silence screamed. I expected him to vanish with the documents, but to my shock, he lingered. The rain whispered against the glass, each drop a haunting echo in the suffocating silence of the house. Silence hung heavy between the two men, an abyss where laughter once thrived. We sat in the living room, the TV flickering, but the silence between us spoke volumes. Our conversations took a turn, slipping into uncharted territory, leaving behind the mundane chatter of work and pleasantries. He leaned in, his eyes searching mine. "Are you happy?" he whispered, the weight of the question hanging in the air. A single question, yet it caught in my throat, leaving me breathless. It had slipped from my mind, buried deep in shadows. I stood frozen, the air thick with tension, as Elias lingered, his gaze unwavering, waiting for a response that hung in the balance. He leaned back, his gaze locked onto mine, a tension hanging thick in the air. We teetered on the edge, the tension thick in the air. I rose, heart racing, and reached into the closet for a blanket, the air thick with tension. As I laid it over him, a simple gesture turned heavy with meaning. But then his skin met mine in a fleeting touch. A fleeting touch, yet the heat coursing through me stopped me in my tracks. I yanked my hand away, my heart racing violently, as if it might betray me with its thunderous beat. I wished it were merely a passing illusion, a figment of my imagination. But then, I looked up, and our eyes locked. Elias's gaze pierced through me. Neither shock nor bewilderment, just a heavy, unspoken acknowledgement. I stood frozen, the walls closing in, the air thick with tension, every heartbeat echoing the truth we could no longer deny. I should have walked away. I should have walked away. Yet I was powerless. Elias's breath was a whisper in the stillness. Silence hung heavy in the air. He stood there, innocent, yet the weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air. But I felt it deep within me. He fought his demons just as I did. I dashed from the living room, my heart racing wildly. I crouched in the kitchen, fingers digging into the chair's arms, struggling to steady my breath. Yet, despite my efforts, the truth loomed large. The boundary had been irrevocably shaken. And the most terrifying realization struck me. I wasn't certain I wanted to end it. It haunted me, a whisper in the dark. I fought against it, but the thought clawed its way back, relentless and unforgiving. Yet, every fleeting moment we shared lingered in my mind, tormenting me for days to come. My hand grazes his, a fleeting connection that ignites a storm within. Our eyes locked in a silent storm. The heavy silence lingers, charged with unspoken words. Strangers bound by nothing but fleeting politeness. I convinced myself it was merely a fleeting lapse in strength. I was lost in the moment, consumed by its intensity. Silence enveloped everything, a heavy shroud of stillness. So hidden, so simple to misjudge. Yet, deep down I knew it. Everything had shifted, and there was no turning back. Elias's visits grew more frequent, each one heavy with unspoken tension. No one saw the change coming. He continued to speak with my husband. Still, he helped me carry the dishes into the kitchen after dinner, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. Each time our gazes collided, a silent truth pulsed between us, a shared secret that ignited the air. As my hand stretched for the glass, I felt a presence. Elias was right there, closer than I ever imagined. As I spun around, our fingers grazed once more, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. He hesitated, a fleeting moment of uncertainty, then yanked his hand away. The house felt eerily silent as my husband left for his business trip, a tension hanging in the air. The doorbell rang, slicing through the silence. I felt a chill run down my spine. I wasn't surprised, but I was unprepared. The door creaked open. Elias stood there, empty-handed, a stark contrast to his usual self. Our eyes locked, silence stretching between us, heavy and charged. But I understood all too well the reason for his arrival. He never bothered to check if I was all right. He didn't even ask if I wanted him to go. The silence spoke volumes, a heavy weight hanging between us. I hesitated before letting him cross the threshold. I paused, torn within, battling my own thoughts. As I stood there, heart racing, I realized that opening this door meant sealing my fate forever. But then, I took a leap I never believed I could muster. I stepped aside, the door gaping open behind me. Elias stepped inside, his gaze locked onto mine, a silent plea hanging in the air, as if he dared me to reconsider. Yet I chose not to. I shut the door, sealing him away. In that instant, I realized the final barrier had shattered. The door slammed shut. In that fleeting instant, silence enveloped everything. Elias stood before me, his gaze steady, time suspended, anticipation thick in the air. I never saw this coming. A whisper, a fleeting pause, a chance to escape. Yet it all slipped away unrealized. We stood frozen, shadows of the past enveloping us in that hauntingly familiar room. Yet, everything had changed. My heart raced, breaths came in jagged gasps. Did Elias see it? The thought gnawed at me, heavy and unrelenting. As he inhaled softly, a battle raged within him. In that moment, I realized I wasn't alone in this turmoil. He stood frozen, breath caught in his throat. He stood there, just inches away, yet his hands remained still, unyielding. The air thickened with unspoken tension. An unseen force tugged at us, the space between us collapsing with every heartbeat. At this very moment, I could choose to end it all. One step back could change everything. Only one. A smile, a single joke. Could it really bring everything back to normal? The weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. I could act as if this moment never existed. Shove this haunting sensation deep into the shadows of my mind and carry on, as if nothing has changed. Yet I couldn't bring myself to do it. Years lost in the shadows of a role I thought defined me. A mother stands at the edge, heart racing, shadows closing in around her. The weight of her choices hangs heavy, each breath a silent plea for hope. Will she find the strength to fight, or will the darkness consume her? Time slips away, and the moment of truth approaches. Someone I never wanted to be. I had completely lost track of that moment. I was a soul driven by my own yearnings. Tonight I stood my ground, no longer yearning to escape. Elias hesitated, his heart pounding as he stepped into the unknown. Yet he never laid a finger on me. He stood in silence, heart racing, the air thick with tension. My breath quickened, each inhale a struggle. The air crackled with tension, palpable and suffocating. I lifted my hand, a mere instinct, not a choice at all. It was a choice my heart made, long before my mind could grasp the weight of it. My fingers grazed the back of his hand, a fleeting touch that hung in the air, heavy with unspoken tension. Yet it held a weight beyond mere words. Silence hangs heavy in the air. Silence hangs heavy in the air. Time hangs heavy in the air. Two souls, on the brink of revelation, confront the truth they've evaded for an eternity. Tomorrow looms, shrouded in uncertainty. Will this choice haunt me? I can't shake the feeling of impending regret. In this moment, nothing else matters. It's unclear when it all changed, when we finally crossed that fragile boundary. Perhaps it was the moment I allowed my fingers to linger on his skin, refusing to retreat. Perhaps it was in that moment when our gazes collided, echoing unspoken truths that shattered the silence. Perhaps it began in the shadows of time, with fleeting moments, silent gazes, and accidental touches that lingered just a heartbeat too long to be mere coincidence. The days that followed slipped by, shrouded in a silence only we could feel. Elias arrived, his demeanor unchanged, speaking to my husband as if the past had never existed. But deep down, we both felt the shift, the weight of unspoken truths hanging in the air. Silence hung heavy between us. In the living room, a fleeting touch sparked an unspoken tension, a connection that defied reason, lingering in the air like a whispered secret. Yet, in the stillness, everything was revealed. Each visit, the atmosphere thickened, a weight only I could sense. Each encounter drew me in deeper, igniting a longing I couldn't control. I steeled myself, knowing I had to stop this before it spiraled out of control. Each time Elias appeared, each time his gaze brushed against me, I felt the grip on my sanity slipping away. That night, the storm unleashed its fury upon the city. My husband was gone, lost in the shadows of a business trip. My son lies in silence, tucked away upstairs. Elias arrived, drenched and breathless, the rain clinging to him like a secret waiting to be revealed. His arrival was a shock, yet as I caught sight of him in the doorway, a chilling certainty gripped me. He was always meant to be here. We sat in the living room, the rain pounding against the windows, each drop echoing the weight of unspoken words. He never bothered to check if I was all right. He never uttered the words to go. He leaned back in his chair, a move that felt both hauntingly familiar and perilously risky. "You don't have to be alone like this," he whispered, his voice barely cutting through the relentless downpour. I averted my gaze, fear gripping my heart. I can feel their presence, lurking in the shadows. Deception hung in the air. Loneliness had wrapped around me like a shroud, suffocating and unyielding. Elias understood, and I sensed he hadn't arrived merely to summon the storm. As he rose and approached, I held my ground, heart racing. His hand grazed mine, and I held my breath, refusing to retreat. As he stepped closer, the world around us seemed to still. A moment of realization settled between us, shifting everything we knew. I believed this moment would last an eternity. Yet, secrets always find a way to emerge, shattering the silence. One afternoon, as I stirred the pot, my husband entered the kitchen, his gaze piercing, filled with an unsettling intensity. "Elias has been visiting a lot lately. Have you noticed?" A chill gripped my veins. "He's my friend," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of unspoken truths. My husband nodded, yet a flicker of uncertainty danced in his eyes, one I had never witnessed before. It hit me like a thunderclap. Everything was unraveling. Secrets linger in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled. Eyes meet in fleeting moments, secrets hanging heavy in the air. Moments stretched, heavy with unspoken words. In those fleeting moments, when Elias was near, I felt a spark ignite within me, a pulse of life that surged through my veins. The tension hung in the air each time he walked away. Everything was laid bare before the man who had stood by my side for years. I can't tell how deeply he understood, but I felt the seconds slipping away. Everything hangs in the balance. I could stop now. Everything could come to a sudden halt. Forget it ever existed. Cling to the remnants of my family, as shadows close in. Or I could persist in a path I knew would lead to despair. Elias left me hanging, the weight of the decision crushing my chest. He stood there, silence hanging heavy in the air. Each glance he cast my way held a promise, a tension that hung in the air, thick and electric. I could feel it, he was waiting. One night, as I opened the door to see him off, his hand lingered on mine, a heartbeat stretched into eternity. A whisper of uncertainty hangs in the air, a silent beckoning. I stood frozen, his figure fading into the shadows, a storm of turmoil raging inside me. For the first time in ages, doubt crept in, saying no felt like a choice I might not make. Tomorrow loomed like a shadow, its secrets heavy in the air. Would he ever discover the truth? The weight of the secret hung heavy in the air, a ticking time bomb ready to explode. Uncertainty gnawed at me. Was Elias truly the answer I sought? Or merely a fleeting vision of a woman who had forgotten what it meant to truly live? Yet there was one truth I clung to. No matter which path I took, everything would change forever. I had crossed that line, and there was no turning back. I hesitated, torn by the weight of uncertainty. The thought of returning gripped my heart with a chilling dread.